Farmers today are facing rising costs, volatile markets, and extreme weather. The Better Way to Farm podcast digs into strategies to help you take control of farm inputs and maximize profit so your farm can thrive for generations. Remember to take advantage of our free resources at abetterwaytofarm.com. Now, from America's Heartland, here's your host.
Hey guys, are you baling cornstalk bales? Hey, Rod here at Better Way to Farm. Thanks for tuning in today. We appreciate you. We have one goal in mind. That's to make you think and or make you ask questions. We're not here to pass judgment. We're not here to argue, but we are here to get you to think. Sheila and I took a trip today, just a short trip up the road here, and we saw someone who had a field full of cornstalk bales, and when we came back, they were hauling them in. And it really got me to think, and I've talked about this. You guys know my take on it. You know I'm not a fan of baling my corn stalks, and especially not selling them. If I'm baling them and using them for bedding and then taking them back to the field, totally cool, because that's a zero-sum game. We're putting the stuff back where it came from. But I want to talk specifically about some numbers. I was jazzed up enough that when I came home here, I started doing some figuring, and I'm going to tell you that my numbers come from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. It's a study that was done a few years ago, back in '08, I think. And so I'm not positive, it's not like last year's work, but as I look through and find other things, this is the clearest, most concise one that I can find. And the numbers are pretty close. The thing that we get into here when we get to talking about the value of the corn stalks is that there are different people who talk about removal rates with grain. Based on several people that I've talked to, PhDs, people within the industry, I believe that we tend to overestimate the removal of nutrients with the grain. I think a lot of the time we think we're taking off way more than what we do. And I believe that it is hybrid specific, that different hybrids, different numbers within a seed corn company will remove different amounts of N, P, K, zinc, manganese, whatever it is. And so I want to be crystal clear on that. But in the study that they did, and I don't know what hybrid it was, but I believe on the average it's fairly symbolic and pretty accurate into what we're seeing. This work was done and was published, like I said, at UNL. I appreciate the work that they do out there. But I want to talk about the uptakes and I want to talk about the removals. The first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that just to grow higher bushels, to grow more yield, it takes more nutrients. And you know that, but it isn't like a linear relationship. It isn't that if I grow 100 bushel corn to grow 200 bushel corn, I got to do twice as much. That's not how it works. According to their work, when they were going from 175 bushel yield to 257, so those are the firm numbers. We had 175 bushel, and then we went to 257 bushel yield. Here's what the nutrient uptake changed. In phosphorus, to get to 175 bushel of corn, we had to take up 0.28 pounds of phosphorus per bushel. In order to get to 257 pounds, we had to take up 0.4. In other words, it was actually a third more, right at a third more, actually a little more than a third. And when you start jumping that up there, it was almost half. It was close to 50% more to increase just from 175 to 257. So it's not a linear relationship. It's a curve that takes off like a rocket ship. Let's talk about potassium. To grow that 175 bushel corn, it took 0.95 pounds of K. To move to 257, it went to 1.75 pounds per bushel. And guys, that is not quite double, but it's really close. It's like 90% more. It almost doubles in order to change that yield curve just from 175 to 257. All we're doing is adding 50% to the yield, but we're adding almost double on the K, and we're adding about 50% more on the phosphorus. Oh, funny story. The nitrogen, it took 1.1 pounds to grow a bushel of corn at 175, and it took 1.1 pounds to grow it at 257. That didn't get linear. It did go up, but it didn't get linear. As we start looking at the nutrient removal, though, that's also interesting work. With each bushel that we take off at the 257, they said it took off 0.31 phosphorus and it took off 0.24 at 175. So the removal rate, it did increase, but not near as much. But the kicker was in the potassium. In the potassium, the removal rate at 175 yield was 0.21. At the 257 bushel yield goal, it took 0.22. That means we left a bunch behind. So I ran through here and I just pretended that this guy, because it looked like he'd had really good corn there. I watched it all year. It's just a few miles from me here. He had really good corn. I'm going to assume that it made that 257. So let's talk about what happens when we pull those stalks out. Now, I know this guy has a lot of livestock, and I'm going to presume that he's taking that back to those livestock barns and he's using it for bedding and he's going to bring it back. However, I also did a little looking here, and I've looked around at some of the local auctions, and I've looked around on some of the marketplaces here locally, and cornstalk bales are bringing roughly $30 a piece. Part of the problem we have here in southeast Iowa where we're at, hay at the sale barn's bringing between 20 and $40 a big round bale. So actual good grass hay is just not selling very well. And so now all of a sudden, instead of having grass hay with more nutrients in it for the cattle to utilize, we're seeing cornstalk bales out here. We have a baler. I'm not interested in doing any custom baling for less than $20 a bale. I know there are people out there that'll do it for 15. We don't want to be in the custom business, and therefore we're not. But even at $15 a bale, if you say it's worth $15 a bale to bale those bales up, now all of a sudden if I sell them for 30, I'm getting $15 per bale. That's it. $15 per bale. And I don't know what they're going to make per acre. I'm going to guess somewhere between 3 and 4 based on what I can see there. But let's talk dollars and cents, guys. The value, according to these numbers from UNL, okay, the value of those cornstalk bales just in potassium, assuming I figure potassium at $600 a ton. So there'd be 326 pounds of actual K in there. About 393 pounds of K2O. You use a factor of 0.83 to get actual pounds of K. That's 326 pounds. Guys, at $600 a ton, that's $150 an acre worth of potassium. Oh, by the way, if we figure the phosphorus at the current value of $1,000 a ton, even though we're only leaving behind about 25.7 pounds out there, that's going to be worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $25. And as an added bonus in the nitrogen, how much nitrogen gets left behind? Well, that'd be the difference between the uptake of 1.1 and the removal of 0.65, which means every bushel of corn left behind 0.45 pounds of nitrogen on 257 bushel corn. That's 115 pounds worth of nitrogen. Figuring that at 40 cents a pound, that's another $44. Guys, that's $219 worth of nutrients. I had a guy reach out to me today. He came back and he was concerned his K levels weren't where they wanted to be. And I can appreciate that because we never want to see soil tests go down. He had been applying quite a bit of K, and I referred him back to one of the podcasts that we do with Dr. Mulvaney, where he literally talks about the fact that in some instances you apply more K, you end up with less available potassium. And so I referred him back to that. I was like, don't be disheartened here. Let's take a long look at this and see what we can do. And I had him talk about the fact that I said, what have you been doing? He'd been putting dry on for a really, really long time, and he's worried about going to liquid. And I'm like, so you've been applying dry, you've been applying quite a bit of dry for quite some period of time, and your K levels are 90 parts per million. They're low. Yeah. I was like, so what conclusion do we draw to that? Well, I need to put a lot more on. I'm not sure that's the answer. But the answer that I will give you, because I know he had a monster crop this year, he grew 270 bushel corn. My first question was, okay, how'd you grow the 270 bushel corn if your values are so bad and there's no other way to get it? Well, we used row place starter and we foliar fed and we did some things. Okay, I'll take your word for that. I have some work right here, some analytical work that we're going to be releasing and talking about at our Fundamentals of Agronomy, showing the amount of K that's in the top 6 feet that's in the plant extractable form. Not that's in the fundamental, elemental, got to ash it down to find it. But we have found in our tests that we've been doing, because we've been soil testing at 6 inches and then start at 6 and go down 12 after that. So 18, 30, whatever, 42, all the way down to we're getting down into that 6 foot range. And we have found in available plant extractable potassium in the top 6 feet, a high of 7,700 pounds, a low of like 3,700 pounds. We still got some more numbers to crunch for some more tests that we did. We're actually digging a couple more root pits to find some more numbers. But guys, there's a lot of potassium on down there. The key is to drive the roots, get a hold of it, put it in the stover and leave it behind. This guy grew 260 or 270 bushel corn. I was like, based on these numbers, all of a sudden you're sitting here looking at, in that plant stover, somewhere in that neighborhood of 300 to 350 pounds potassium. Let's get a stock digester on out there and let's recycle those nutrients just as fast as we can. Guys, when we bale our stalks, we remove all kinds of things. We remove N, P, K. We remove zinc and manganese and copper and boron and all of the other nutrients and sulfur and calcium. All those things are gone. We also remove all of that residue. That residue can recycle very quickly. That residue will eventually help become some organic matter. That residue provides cover for that soil to keep it from blowing away and help keep it from washing away. And I understand when you're growing, some of you guys growing 300, 330, 350 bushel corn, you're going, you don't understand my residue. Yes, I do, because I've been there. I've seen 400 bushel corn. I know that it's walking on a mat, and you have to figure out how to manage it. No-till may not be the answer there. There may have to be some kind of incorporation with the soil. I get all of that. But I am very concerned about what we're taking away when we sell those stocks. I'm very concerned about the soil health. I'm very concerned about the nutrients lost. I'm very concerned about soil bacteria. And I believe with everything in my body exactly what it says on my desk pad, which is right over there, 6 feet from me. It says in red ink, it is never wrong to do the right thing. Guys, each person has to make their own decision. We've talked about selling these stocks before, and I know that each one has to walk their own line, and that's okay. I'm just asking, before you do it, I'm asking you to think. I'm asking you to ask questions and say, is this a good deal for me? It also says on my desk pad, everything that happens in ag is good for somebody. The question is who? Our goal at A Better Way to Farm is to make sure that what happens is good for you. Because outside of that, everything else is insignificant. It doesn't matter about us. It doesn't matter about your retailer. It doesn't matter about the guy selling stocks. One of my favorite stories, one of my clients called up and they were asking me what my opinion of selling stock was. And I went through these numbers and they said, well, we've been selling our stocks to this guy. And they told him they weren't going to do it anymore. And the guy got really mad at him. And he was like, well, what am I supposed to do? I need those corn stalks. And they're like, well, that would not be our problem. We need this many dollars out of them. Well, I can't pay that for them. Why would you sell? I mean, guys, if you had a combine that was worth $500,000, I would really like to buy it. I need a new combine, and I'd like to buy that combine for $200,000. Are you going to sell it to me? No, you're going to think I'm crazy for even asking. So why then do we take our stocks that are worth $219 per acre and sell them for 50 or 60 or 80 bucks an acre, minus the baling, minus the net wrap, minus the wear and tear on the baler, 80 bucks an acre? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Guys, again, my goal is not to upset anyone. I'm not picking on anyone. It's just to get you to think. You know, we have no issues with the guys that are baling these and they're using them in a livestock operation. They're hauling manure back. And I just want you guys to consider respectfully, at 257 bushel corn, there's $219 worth of nutrients in there. And I think it might behoove us to hang on to those. In a year when nutrients are higher than a kite, when we're all being squeezed on margins trying to figure out what we're going to do, this might be the year to say, time out. I don't think I want to do that. As a added bonus, I just want to encourage you guys, we still believe firmly in soil testing. And we are definitely very biased in who we want to use. We love Midwest Labs. And I will be quite honest with you, we are not excited about a Malic 3 test at all. There are people that use it, and that's fantastic. Good for you. But we're going to use the Bray test on the P1 and P2 phosphorus to get those. We want to see an ammonium acetate on the K levels. And we're going to do some DTPA extraction to get those micronutrients, except for boron, which we're going to take out with sorbitol, which is a sugar extraction. Why? Because we want the most accurate results. Guys, we love what we do. We love talking to you. We've got people reaching out to us faster than ever before. Hey, by the way, it isn't long, man, like 5 weeks, and we're going to be at our first fundamentals of agronomy. We're super excited about those. If you'd be interested in picking up a whole bunch of information at one of the fundamentals of agronomy, text fundamentals to Karen at 641-919-5570, and someone from the team will be in touch. I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for your time. And as always, we hope you're having a better day.